Hello and welcome to this first lecture of the new section on quality assurance and control in this course, Master in Construction Management. So, in this particular section, we will give you some good idea of how to do quality assurance and control. And one of the things that we will start by taking a look at in this lecture is to establishing high quality standards and benchmarks. That becomes the basis of the quality assurance and control. So, what are the things in general, before we get into that specific area of standards and benchmarks? What are the other things that you need to do in addition to establishing high quality standards and benchmark to do quality assurance and control? So first, obviously, is to establish high quality standards and benchmark, right? Because they become the basis of your quality. Then you conduct regular inspections and audits to check whether your quality standards are being met, and accordingly you take actions. And then the third thing is to use innovative materials and construction techniques to ensure quality and control quality. So let's take a look at how to establish high quality standards and benchmarks. So establishing high quality standards and benchmark in construction management basically is important to provide consistent and efficient and safe project execution while meeting the client expectation. So because a client is asking you to do the project, construction project, with certain expectation in mind, and it has to be done in an efficient, from a resource point of view, and a safe execution. So quality standards help you achieve that. Now, what are the various steps that you can take to do this? So first, obviously, is to you to understand in a project or now the purpose of standards and benchmark. So what do standards do? Now, standards set clear and measurable criteria for construction quality, safety, and compliance. They set the what are the factors that you must meet at what level to qualify for a quality construction. They compare to the benchmarks serve as a reference point to evaluate the project performance compared to the best practices or industry norms. So benchmarks are more relative to the industry and the best practices, where standards are more absolute criteria for construction quality, safety, and compliance. Once you understand the standards and benchmark definition, then what you need to look at is in the project to identify key areas that you would set quality standards. Now, typically, what are they? You could be setting up in design and engineering the standards where you specify materials property, design tolerances, and construction techniques. See, including the techniques. That could be a standard in quality. Then the second thing would be on in materials and equipment, you could define acceptable specification for procurement of these materials and equipment and how to use them. So there could be quality standards in that area also. Then in terms of the workmanship of the people, where you can establish guidelines on on-site work quality in terms of alignments of the various works done, finishing of the work, and tolerances of the work done. Then you also would need to set the quality standards in health and safety area, the way you can integrate OSHA, OSHA, ISO 45001 or other safety standards. And finally, environmental sustainability, where you incorporate LEED, BREEAM, or other green building certifications. So these are some areas that we are talking about here, or that you can set quality standards. There can be more depending on your project. Then you research existing standards. You refer to globally recognized standards, such as in these areas like ISO 9001 for quality management system. For material testing standards, you may refer to ASTM International. For concrete quality standards, you may look into American Concrete Institute standards. For standardizing the project specification, you could look at Construction Certification Institute, CSI. And for professional standards for construction and engineering, you could look at RICS or FIDIC, right? So these are some existing standards, the research which you can research and take benefit of those. Then you need to define very clearly your quality standards or objectives for your standards. What do you want to achieve with these standards? You need to define that. And there are three things you need to define there. One, in terms of performance goal, what are the desired outcomes you want to achieve with these standards, like, for example, structural integrity, aesthetic quality, or energy efficiency? Also, you need to define very clearly, are there any compliant matrices, which I'm sure there will be. And there you need to ensure alignment with legal, regulatory, and contractual requirement. And finally, it is the client satisfaction. So you need to focus on meeting or exceeding client expectations. So they very clearly define the quality objectives, the objectives that your quality standard should help achieve. Then you develop detailed quality standards with those objectives in mind. And there are three things you do normally. You create standard operating procedures where you write step by step instruction for each construction activity. Then you set tolerances and specifications by defining acceptable limits for dimensions, materials, and performances. And then you draft the inspection checklist where you cover critical milestones. Say, for example, foundation, framing, electrical. So you define the standard operating procedures for these areas by these inspection checklists. Then you establish benchmarks. And there could be two kinds of benchmarks: internal benchmarks that come from past projects to set realistic performance goals. So they could use data from the past projects. There could be industry benchmarks that you can get by comparing with leading companies or projects to identify best practices. And of course, you would have your KPIs, key performance indicators. And some of these examples could be material waste percentages, labor productivity, number of hours per task, equipment utilization rate, and client satisfaction score. So each of these KPIs, you set up benchmarks by doing internal and external benchmarking. Then you implement QA and quality control procedure. Now, what is the difference between QA and QC? Quality assurance is a proactive proactive process where you ensure processes and materials align with standards before work begins. Before work begins. And here to do this QA task, you use training, planning, and documentation to maintain consistency. On the other hand, QC, quality control, is reactive, where you check, inspect, and test work done and after construction to detect and correct defects. So one you can see a major difference. QA is proactive before the work begins, and it is preventive. It's kind of making sure things happen the right way the first time. Whereas QC is you have done the work and then you check whether that has been the way you want it. And that you do by QC is done by performing audits, material tests, and final inspection. So you implement the QA and QC processes. Then in doing that, you need to engage qualified personnel because without them, your QA QC won't happen. And there are three things you can do there. You need to do there is to train teams, educate staff on quality standards, procedures, and benchmarks, assign responsibilities by appointing a quality manager or quality team to oversee compliance to those standards, benchmarks, etc., and foster accountability by ensuring all team members understand their role in achieving quality. So, quality is not quality managers or team's job, it is everyone's job. And what you need to do to make that happen is to clearly ensure and communicate and make them understand their role in achieving the quality. Monitor performance and collect data. There are three things you can do. You can schedule routine site inspections to check adherence to standards using by doing regular inspections. You can use technologies by using drones, you know, building information, uh, uh, you know, modeling and sensors to monitor construction quality. Also gather insights from workers, clients, and stakeholders as feedback mechanisms. So like this, you need to monitor performance and collect data. Evaluate and refine standards as you go along in your projects by continuous improvement. You know, use lessons learned from past projects to update standards. Benchmark reviews by periodically comparing performance against benchmarks and adjusting targets, and adopt innovation by incorporating new materials, methods, or technologies that enhance quality. Communicate standards across teams through clear documentation by publishing quality manuals, checklists, and SOPs. Also, you can use training programs to provide, online modules to educate teams through workshops and have regular meetings to ensure alignment and address concerns promptly. So communicate standards across teams. In fact, every person should know the standards applicable to his or her work. Certify and collaborate. That's another way to ensure quality happens. One is you can use quality certifications by seeking third-party certifications like ISO 9001 to demonstrate commitment to quality and partner with vendors and subcontractors who meet your quality expectations. So collaborating with suppliers and contractors who are quality conscious, you can ensure that you also deliver quality. Let's take a look at few examples of quality assurance and quality control and ensuring quality. So first one is a Bechtel Corporation. What did Bechtel do to maintain quality and deliver quality? They developed proprietary quality management software to monitor standards in real time. So that's what they did because they were a very large company. Similarly, Turner Construction uses pre-installation meetings and mock-ups to align expectation with benchmarks, and Floor Corporation implements a zero-defect policy, ensuring all tasks meet predefined quality criteria. So these are some ways these large corporations, the global leading corporations, manage quality. Let us look at an example of a workflow that you can see in different phases of ensuring developing and ensuring the quality standards. In the foundation work, when you do foundation work in your project, one of the quality standards you need to develop is concrete mix, M20 grade. And there your benchmark could be slump test within 25 tolerance, and you can check out whether you're meeting these quality standards by test reports and inspection records. In the structural framing phase, you would need to set up steel reinforcement spacing quality standards. And the benchmark could be plus minus 10 tolerance, and you can only check by on-site measurements and checks, right? And in the finishing phase, you will need to have quality standards for paint application uniformity, and your benchmark could be no visible streaks or patches, and the check would happen through visual inspection. So, by implementing robust quality standards and benchmarks, you can achieve superior project outcomes and set yourself apart in the construction industry. So, in the next lecture, we will talk about how to conduct regular inspections and audits that we touched on in this lecture. So, thank you so much for watching this first quality assurance and control lecture in this course, Master in Construction Management. I hope you're continuing to learn new things, continuing to enjoy, and I do look forward to see you again in the next lecture. Please feel free to message me if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer your questions, and do download the PDF file to take a look at anything that you need.